You guys want to hear something completely insane? If you're shy, if you have social anxiety, you can overcome it completely. By developing its opposite, unstoppable courage, you will be able to do absolutely everything you can think of, from talking to anyone to audiences. In this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I achieved this. I used to be extremely shy myself, used to be a freelance software engineer, and until 26, 27, I couldn't go out and talk with anyone. Well, unless I would get drunk. In this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly what steps I did to go from extremely shy to very ongoing, and I'm a public speaking coach now. I talk to audiences regularly, I do stage performance and teach those skills also. How can you go from one extreme to another? That's what we will cover. I'm gonna tell you about the ugly sides also. They are, to be honest, things that I prefer not to share publicly, but those might be exactly the things that you need. So no filters, I'm gonna tell you everything. So started about 9 years ago, and at that time my state was to be a freelance software engineer working from home. The only reason why I would go out was to get groceries, which often included a lot of alcohol. I sometimes went out if I had any friend who were organizing something, though at that point most of my friendships were died, because obviously when you never get in touch with people, if you relationships just die. So if I were to go out, I would drink a lot, because otherwise I would be completely unable to connect with other people. I felt like I didn't have anything to share with them. My passion was software engineering since I was a teenager. I was very deep into that. I did contests about that. It was my job. It's hard to connect with people who didn't know tech, and to be fair, even with people who knew tech, it was hard. I would see my family, of course. I have siblings. We would do weekend and evenings, and even then I would get drunk, part because it's the culture from where I come from. People get drunk whenever there is a social occasion, and I just did that since I was young and helped to talk with people, to be more talkative. Otherwise I would just not tell anything. It started to get worse because I also drank alone, because I was bored. Obviously no friends, no events, no experiences, nothing interesting going in my life. Which means that if you want to feel alive, at some point you need to either get drunk or get drugs. Not many options. So I was completely stuck. I knew I had to change something, but at that point I thought that it's just who I am. I'm born with this social anxiety, which is a big pain because it prevents me to do anything in the world. Even with tech, I always thought that I would create my company and then I would make things, but when you have such a strong social anxiety that you cannot even talk with people, not just talking, but just making a phone call. I used to wait for days sometimes before making the phone call that would make me progress in the work or in my life. Completely blocked, but I thought that there might be no solution for me, because I read some articles online, I did some testing, I scored at the extreme spectrum of introversion. So I thought, okay, I'm just an introvert and that's my personality. That's what I thought. And this social anxiety that I have, it's just bad luck. I saw that I could have dealt with any type of challenge in my life, but not that one. Social anxiety was the big stop that prevented me to do anything. And there was no way out. I wasn't even very conscious of it, but it got worse year by year because I lost my friends. And of course, when you drink a lot of alcohol, you do things that you prefer to forget. You send messages that you regret sending, and you're a fool when you are with people, which makes the next day quite hard. I had no hope. I was on a descending path and I didn't even know it. One day, by luck, I heard a podcast where someone was talking who seemed to have an extraordinary life, creating events, having a company, traveling the world. And this guy was very interesting. It had one big question that he asked people. And this question was, when was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you did something for the first time? Which made me reflect. First times are magical because we will remember them. They're always intense, whatever it is. And what this guy was saying is that if you want to do something interesting, if you want to have an interesting life, do things for the first time regularly. And so I thought to me, what can I do? Something easy. Because when you're very shy, when you have a very strong social anxiety, there are not many things that you can do for the first time. Everything is scary. I mean, going to an event is scary. Visiting any place that you don't know is scary. Going in a bus in a city that you don't know is scary. Everything is scary. So I settled for something very simple, to go to the city center of the city I was living in. And I thought I'm just gonna go in a cafe and order something that I never tried before. I took my laptop with me. I thought maybe I'm gonna get some work done, or never know. And so it's what I did. I went to this cafe. It was random. I just went to the city center. I walked a little bit and I thought I never went there. I went there, entered, checked on the menu, and I think that never took a tea. It was a kind of a tea I saw on the menu. So I never tried that one. So I ordered. It worked. I got the tea, sat on my table, took out my laptop, and I thought about what I could do next for the first time. I started to feel a bit carried, a little bit pumped up, and I thought I never traveled, never spent the weekend outside of my home or my parents' home alone. I decided to book a train ticket to a city nearby. Didn't go that far because I thought if I don't like it, it will be easy to come back. So I went to Switzerland for the weekend, to the city of Basel. And I just bought the ticket, took an Airbnb, and that's it. So the departure was the day after. I thought I have to do it right now. Sometimes in life, when you are stuck and you suddenly have ideas and motivations of things that you know will unstuck you, don't wait. You have to act impulsively in those cases. That's what I found. That night, I did my bag. That was just a weekend, but I thought, let's keep my options open. It's only a weekend, maybe it will transform into something more. So I took enough clothes, like a week worth of clothes, to make sure that I have options once I get to Basel. So which I did the next day, took the train. And it was cold, it was January. Not the best time, to be honest. Don't wait for the best time. For me, it was middle of January. Going to Basel, it's like, so there was snow, it was crazy cold. Definitely not the right time to do a trip. Definitely not for a first trip. But sometimes, if you want to have things that happen, you have to do them right away. Once in Basel, I worked in the streets, visited a little bit, and it was my first time visiting a city like this. It was quite exciting, very expensive also. Didn't expect if you don't live in Switzerland. You're like, whoa. And I thought, what can I do next? So I thought it's very cold, so maybe I should go to a place where it's a little bit hotter. I checked the map and I saw Greece. And I thought, why wouldn't I go to Athens just like that? So in Basel, I booked a flight to Athens, another Airbnb, for just after the weekend. So I went directly from Basel to Athens. Now there was a catch though. There were no plane going from Basel to Athens. So I had to take the plane from Zurich, which is another town in Germany. But anyway, I booked the plane ticket and I thought I booked the plane ticket so that I have no choice and then I find how to get there. Might also be a good strategy if you want to cut your options and make sure that you really do something. Going from Basel to Zurich was harder than expected. I don't really remember why it was so hard. I think it was because the plane was in the morning and I couldn't find a train. The option that I found was to get a shared car, a BlaBla car. I found one. Some guy came from Basel to Zurich, matching the time that I needed for my flight. Also very scary because going in the car with a stranger, I mean, for someone shy, social anxiety, everything was completely new, everything was crazy. But I got into the car and it was actually a nice ride because obviously when you do something as crazy as a solo trip when you're shy, when you meet people, you tell them what you do, which creates great connections. And so went to Zurich, went to Athens, was great. From Athens, obviously, what's the next step? And it was still cold, so I went to Egypt. And in Egypt, it was completely crazy. I'd like to tell you the story, but this will be for another video. Otherwise, this one will take hours. And I came back after this series of trips because I had some work to do, obviously. This was my first round of solo trips. So to be fair, in retrospective, I didn't do much during those solo trips because I was inexperienced and I was still shy with a lot of social anxiety. So I did the safe things. I tried to go in restaurants, but most of the time it was restaurants when you don't have to interact, especially in Egypt because I didn't know Arabic. So I ended up going to KFC and to McDo instead of trying local restaurants. Everything was scary. So obviously I took it step by step. But when I came back, I realized that my English level was quite low and was really a block for me to travel and understand people. So I had to learn more English. And in my town, I found out that there were language exchange events. So I thought of going there to practice my English, which will make my next trips better. I was still extremely shy and going to the event was extremely scary. I faced an extreme pressure when I went there. I shared a story in my book. It's called The Extrovert Switch. I just released it and it contains everything that I did to go from shy with social anxiety to public speaking coach. And although all the intel that I gathered by helping other people achieve the same. So if you want the full story, you can read the book, it's in the book. And I tell you exactly what I did, the challenges that I did, and I advise people to do to have the best results when they want to develop their social skills. In those events, I met many friends, and ultimately, I got fluent in English, and ultimately even met my wife. That was years after. But completely recommend if you want to develop your social skills to go to language exchange events, because in those events you will meet people from other countries, which will create such rich interactions. You will make friends and it will completely open your mind to the world. And that's about the time when I made a mistake. I started to be a little bit less shy, though very reserved. At that time, I wouldn't have been able to talk in front of an audience. And I still felt that my interactions were very filtered. I still felt sometimes not really there. Like I saw people were talking and I would just retreat in my mind. But I made the first step. And that's about the time where I discovered drugs. So I tried MDMA and instantly it fixed all my problems. I wasn't shy anymore. I was very outgoing with the drugs. But then once the effect stops, I fucking lost it. And so what did I do? I did more of it because I saw that at some point maybe it will stick. And that was so stupid. And I knew it wasn't real. I still did it. And it even led to other drugs, psychedelics, mushrooms, lots of weed. And it really damaged my brain. I started to believe in things that were a bit crazy, living on multiple planes at the same time. And I thought that what I was doing would heal me, but it did the opposite. First, it felt like healing, but then it just created more weird beliefs, limiting beliefs, and crazy things that started to come up in my mind. Obsessive thoughts, which I struggled with for years. To tell you, it's about now 6 or 7 years that I completely stopped doing drugs and alcohol. I stopped both. And I would say in periods of instant stress, I still have a little bit of those negative things that were created by this period where I was trying all those drugs. And for the first 3 to 4 years, it was rather in. So I went out of this drug period at rock bottom because at the end it didn't work anymore. I didn't get the effect anymore of feeling free, and I completely lost it. And on top of that, I now had to struggle with weird things and strange things going in my brain. That was hell. It was real and deep hell. Not to mention my software engineering business that was a little bit going not so well, because obviously when you do drugs become your priority. So one day I hit rock bottom. After a very bad trip, I decided I stop. And to tell you, I shouldn't tell you on a public video, but basically I gathered with this bunch of friends that I have. We did drugs all night. First party in a club and then continue to do drug in what we call an after. If you don't know what's an after, it's a party that starts at 5 or 6 a.m. after you did drugs all the night. And this party can sometimes last for up to 3 days where you don't sleep because you take drugs, and some of those drugs keep you awake. Telling you this, I'm like, what the fuck, man? So I was in one of those after 2 or 3 days non-stop partying, taking drugs, day and night, completely exhausted, completely in my mind, completely in a very bad state. And there was a woman that I found pretty and that I liked in this group of people. That I met her maybe 2 weeks, or maybe 2 months ago. Yeah. And she was there. Problem is that at that point I already retracted so much in my mind that I just spent time sitting and thinking instead of interacting with other people around. So I already completely lost it. Didn't talk with people anymore. You could say I was just going to those events as an excuse to take drugs. I had some friends, obviously, but it was so destructive. It was so destructive. Because obviously one of the things that we talked most of were the drugs and our experience with it. And I was sitting on the couch like this, completely wasted. And this woman that I liked, actually she seems like she also liked another guy. And it seemed that the other guys made a lot more progress than me. And apparently they were together now. So missed the chance. I missed the chance. And things were turning in my head. And somehow, after a long time pondering about what I should do, I finally gathered the courage. And in front of everyone, I told her, hey, you shouldn't go with this guy. Come with me. So courageous. Oh, crazy. So obviously when you do that in front of all your friends, you're like, maybe it's time for me to go. When I realized what I did, I thought, okay, Jeff, you're done with this group. Now it seems that you have to find other friends, which isn't that bad. Because to be honest, as shit as I felt that day, I knew I was done with drugs. And I was happy because I don't know if I could have done in any other way. Those were my friends. They were the first people who somehow knew me. Because with drugs, obviously, I had also deep conversation with many of those people. But it was so destructive because we would meet every weekend, sometimes even in the week, just to get as wasted as we could. And we were all broken. And I had no way to go away because in those groups, people give you a lot of positive feedback when you're wasted, and the more drugs you take and the more people see you as a hero, tell you how much they love you, how amazing you are. And it's how I felt in this group. I felt amazing, but it was destructive. And that day when I made this social mistake in front of my friends, asking for if that she should come with me instead, I knew I was done with drugs. Because that wasn't me. So I realized that that's not who I was. I wasn't a guy who somehow is completely stuck, talking in his head and don't interact with anyone and start to create his own reality in his mind and do something like this. It wasn't me. The guy that I saw were doing those drugs and the effects that it had on me, it wasn't me. So that day I knew I was free because there were no way I was gonna meet with those people anymore. I had to completely cut the links. And I was done with drugs. It damaged my brain too much. I was done. And I decided to focus on the business instead, to make my life in order. Though the problem is that I was still shy because with this, I made great progress by making those trips and going to language exchange events before doing the drugs. But the drugs somehow just paused all my progress, made me believe that I was getting better with the drugs, but in fact I was going down. And so when I completely stopped the drugs, I was back at square zero with weird things happening in my brain, some damages, no friends anymore, and still shy, still social anxious, still social anxiety. And so I thought if I did those trips first and they helped me, I should go back to trips, solo trips. Not drug trips, traveling trips, you hear me? But I didn't want to pay a rent when I was traveling because that's something that shocked me during my first trips. That when you're out traveling the world, still have to pay the rent for the apartment you're not using at home. And I didn't make so much money back then. I made an okay amount of money, but I didn't have a buffer. And I didn't want to work and have to pay for a rent for an apartment that I'm not using. So I decided to go out of my apartment, give it back to the landlord, took a ticket to Singapore, and I thought I'm gonna do the digital nomad lifestyle. With my laptop, gonna work for my clients in France while traveling in Southeastern Asia, which was a dream that I had for a long time. What I quickly realized is that when you go to the other side of the world alone, your problem doesn't disappear. I was in this Airbnb in Singapore and going out was a nightmare. Plus in Singapore they speak a very weird English, so it was very hard for me to actually communicate with Singaporeans. Now it's better because my wife's Singaporean, but it's completely unrelated to the fact that I was in Singapore at the time. Weird story. In Singapore, I ended up staying in my room, fearing going out. And there were also other people living in this home, and I felt discomfort whenever I was past them. So I thought I'd just stay in my room, but then I was blocked. But then that was the super interesting life of the digital nomad who stays at home because he's afraid of going out of his room. Long story short, didn't get better for the first 2 or 3 months. I changed country and city every week or every 2 weeks, but I didn't do much there. Mostly working outside and staying inside. It was quite boring. I didn't feel energy. I felt so tired. No, I know. Learned later that if you want your trips to be interesting, you have to do things while feeling tired, because that's how the tiredness go away. I mean, it was a tiredness that was purely psychological. I traveled for 6 months in Asia with my backpack. And I went from shy to easygoing. But for the first 3 months, it didn't really work. Until I decided not to go in a hotel or not to go in an apartment alone, but to go to a house hostel. And when I went to a house hostel, at some point I knew that I was in a new city. And again, the whole story is my book. But I knew that no one knew here that I was shy, so I pretended not to be shy and just talk with everyone, which changed everything. But again, the whole story and also exactly what I did and the strategies that I recommend people who have social anxiety to do and the steps and the mindset, everything is in my book, The Extrovert Switch. It's available on Amazon. When I came back from those trips, I was different. I had a life experience. I had things to share. I already proved myself that I can sometimes not be shy. Though it didn't feel as liberated at that time anymore, I didn't do everything that's written in the book. Again, it's like you have to practice not just in one environment, but you have to multiply the environments you're in. Otherwise, your brain will make you confident only in the environment where you have experience. So what I did challenges, many challenges, talking with people in the street, at events. And I realized that the most important thing is to initiate conversations and not to wait for other people to come to you. Otherwise, you don't learn. Met my wife. I started public speaking because I wonder what would the next step be for me once you can talk with people and with groups of people at events, travel, talking in front of an audience. I joined the public speaking club, Toastmasters club. It was amazing. I learned a lot. I got feedback from other people. And after 2 years, I became the president of this club, which at that time couldn't believe that people asked me to get the president. I mean, I was deadly shy a few years before. And now people ask you, do you want to be the president of the club, a public speaking club? And I was like, what? I didn't notice at that time that what I did already put me at a quite high level. I didn't notice at that time. Because when you start from shy and then you do a few steps, you always feel that, okay, I can now talk with anyone, but everybody can do this, right? No, because when you're shy, you believe that everyone around is extremely confident. But once you do the few steps, start to be a bit more comfortable, you realize that 90% of the people are quite shy. Even if they would never talk about themselves as shy because they can buy bread without sweating, which I couldn't do. So they don't tell themselves as shy, but whenever it's going to an event where they don't know anyone and striking a conversation with a group of strangers, suddenly they have more difficulties. But this is something that you never know, because when you are shy, you think that everyone can do it. But no. And that was about the time that I decided to teach what I learned. Public speaking, the soft skills, became a coach. Helped a few people who also had social anxiety, but not just people with social anxiety. I also help entrepreneurs. And the funny thing is that it was the same skills. The craziest thing is that the skills that I teach people with social anxiety to talk in front of groups or even to talk to people in the street, they are basically the same skills that I teach entrepreneurs who have, for now, at most 60 employees, to talk in front, not of the employees, but in front of the board of a bigger company. Because we all have our levels. People are always scared of the higher level. So if you have social anxiety, the higher level is talking with people that you don't know. If you are an entrepreneur with 60 employees, your fear is talking to people of a way bigger company than you. And the way you do that is exactly the same. Which leads me to give you a secret in this video, because if you are watching for so long, you deserve at least a secret. The steps that you do to overcome shyness and social anxiety, starting by talking with people, the very easy step. Those skills are transferable. If you don't make the mistake, everything is the book, but those skills that are transferable to any level, like pitching to investors, the same skills. Talking to a boardroom or a high-stake meeting, same skills. Job interview, same skills. Networking, talking with people in the street, and talking with people in a networking event, also same skills. Perceived difficulty higher, foundation same. And to tell you, what I also tried is to go to a 5-star hotels and make contacts there. That was something that I felt a lot of fear doing. Did that a few years ago. I thought this was a higher level. And I wonder if those skills that I learned, because I believe that they were universal and worked in all situations. And I wonder if that was really true. And if you want to know, you have to do it. So I did that once, and again, the story of the book. So much promotion in this video, it's crazy. I hope you're gonna buy it by the end of this. The full story is in the book, but it's 250 or 60 pages, I think. Obviously, I cannot tell everything in a video like this. It would be too long. But I tried, and I met people who were representing a $5 billion fund, and we had an amazing discussion, amazing evening. In fact, it was one of the craziest situations that I've been in my entire life. It worked. The same exact way what I taught worked. Which is nice because I was already teaching those skills before I tried this. So I was happy that it worked. Super nice. And that's about it for my stories. So basically I always try to find the next thing that were scary for me. And it started by doing things for the first time. But then everything was for the first time. Obviously, when you have social anxiety, talking with people in every situation is a first time. Talking with group in any situation is a first time. Talking to audiences in any situation is a first time. So I used this as a compass. And it started with something to do for the first time, but soon it became doing something that triggers fear. And I use my fear as a compass. And you can find all of this in The Extrovert Switch from social anxiety to unstoppable courage. It's available on Amazon. See you, bye.